What's going on, my great people in all of the world? You know what time it is. It's your guy, Nicholas Wilcox. It's your guy alongside me, Johnny Main. Johnny, say what's up to the great people.
What up? What up? It is now time for week 13 waiver wire edition. Week 12, crazy off the hinges, unscrewed. But no need to worry because me and my guy, Nick Wilcox, man, we're here to kick some game to y'all, man, get y'all ready to go for this Thanksgiving holiday season. Got a lot to be grateful for, man. So what up, everybody?
Well, without further ado, it's week 13 of the fantasy football show. Your week 12 reactions, your waiver wire suggestions, advice. And we got added to the overall slate of games this week. We got some Thanksgiving games overall. So we're going to break down Thanksgiving, NFL matchups for sure. And then we're taking all questions, obviously. So if you guys feel free to do so, please do it in the chat. If you aren't following us on X, Twitter, these are the hashtags below where you guys find us. For whatever reason you guys watch it on replay or whatever, feel free to hit us up as well. Get you guys questions answered individually as well. Again, please like and subscribe to our channel. It helps us out. Give you guys the best of what we have every week. It was a really decent week 12, I would say, overall. So we're gonna go right into what we noticed from week 12. We're gonna start with the old man segment. So Johnny, you want to kick us off for your old man segment? Go ahead.
All right, so I'll start off first.
No. You gotta restart that.
Oh, listen, don't worry. You guys will know what time it is as I get on my rant and rave out here, man. So first off, as I get on my old man segment, want to congratulate you on your win in draft night out. So congratulations publicly.
Mashed potatoes.
I'll tip my hat to you on that one right there for sure. Knocking me out of first place in that league. Personal. Oh, it's personal now. Yeah, it is. It's definitely personal now. It's personal. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But no, just some shout outs real quick, man. Like, some things we want to call out. QB1 of the week, Jaden Daniels in a barn burner, man, there with the Dallas Cowgirls, which we all know the result of that game right there, which is insane. Yeah, I got you. I'm tipping my cap to you this week, man. I got no choice but to, man. You put me in my place, all right? You put me in my place. You humbled me, all right? It's very similar to what happened to the Steelers this week. I think there's a lot going on there. So Jaden Daniels, QB1 of the week, man, that barn burner for sure. 32 and some change he threw up in PPR formats. Obviously, he's the quarterback. Wide receiver number 1 on the week. Minnesota Vikings wide receiver, not named Justin Jefferson, but Jordan Addison. Lord. Nick, man, you were on the right. You had the right energy, man, but just the wrong guy, bro. So shout out to you on that one, man. At 30, yeah, 30.2.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. And typically I don't ever call these out. I don't call out the number 2 guys, but I had to call out the number 2 wide receiver in this show here. This one here, man. My guy, our guy, Cortland Sutton, wide receiver number 2. I gotta call him out, man. PPR format.
That's definitely your guy for
sure.
Yeah,
definitely my guy for sure.
But definitely my guy too.
Definitely, yeah. Tight end number 1, finally getting back in the swing of things, man. Trey McBride with 25 points and some change, in week 12. So that was really good to see him get back on track. And I don't want to say last but not least, but the number 1 fantasy player in all of the world in week 12 got me. I got him, my guy, Nick's guy, Saquon. Hit the quad on him. Barkley threw up a 42-piece and some sauce. Saquon Barkley.
Barkley.
Yeah, man, just getting busy out there, bro. You know what I mean? So if you had any of those guys, man, obviously it was a great week. If you were using any of those guys in DFS, obviously on FanDuel for Saquon, great week if you were playing those guys. So now I'm going to talk about the guys that it effing sucked to have, the egg-sucking dogs of the week. Let's start off with Joe Mixon at 4.5 points, running back 31. Joe Mixon.
We can take a stab at it, Chandler.
Yeah.
We'll take a stab at it. Let's go.
Yeah.
How you feeling? Drop them in the chat. What's
man. Yeah. So Joe Mixon, running back 31. Then another guy that it seemed like a lot of people were really high on this week, and I didn't understand why. Marvin Harrison Jr. Is the guy I'm going to call out. 7.7 points. Wide receiver 49. That's gross. Cade Otton, 4 points. Tight end 28. Yikes. And last but certainly not least, my guy, Nick Wilcox, his guy. Call of Duty season is upon us, and you know what that means. Kyler Murray, 11.3 points. Quarterback, Michael Jordan, 23. Ladies and gentlemen, rough week for the egg-sucking dogs on this side of town. So from a fantasy perspective, man, like those are some of my takes. And I'll give you guys my highlights, man, or just things, man, that really stuck out to me in week 12. And one of the things that stuck out to me is it looks like Bryce Young's benching hit a little bit harder than Anthony Richardson, man. Looks like Bryce Young is starting to turn a corner. Anthony Richardson kind of got what we expected from him in week 12, right? Obviously going against the Detroit Lions. So, Bryce Young, man, turning a corner. Looks like before Anthony Richardson. So we got that. And then, man, sophomore slumps are real, bro. It's real out here in these streets for these sophomores, man. You know, you start walking around campus feeling like the big man on campus, you know what I mean, as a rookie. You know, shout out to CJ Stroud. And, you know, he's had a rough patch here over the last couple of weeks, man. And inside of that game, this was the Tennessee Titans team we thought we were getting. This was the team. This was the version of Will Levis we thought we were getting. And all of a sudden, now they want to start playing football in week 12. Shout out to everybody back home, man. The Tennessee Titans getting busy. Will Levis, Tony Pollard, Chico Conway getting busy. And my last take on my old man rant. Somebody in San Francisco better find some money to pay Lesnar. Oh, wait, Brock Purdy. Yeah, somebody better find some money to pay Brock Purdy for sure, because the San Francisco 49ers are absolutely not the same football team without that man. I know they got a lot going on, but Brock Purdy, I think we're seeing it. He's going to be worth every penny. That is me. That is Johnny Main in my old man segment. 9 minutes. I did good. I was under 10, bro.
Nice for sure. Noticing for week 12, man. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with Deebo Samuel. Wide receiver 71 last week. Wide receiver 71 last week. And look, I'm not sure if it's just like the calf or him coming back from his sickness from a couple weeks. But look, 3 of the last 4 performances, that's 1 week before the bye week. Wide receiver 41 or worse in 3 of the last 4. Man, I don't know what's going on. I mean, you're hoping that the slump breaks soon if you have him, because I have him in a few leagues. You're just hoping that Deebo is healthy, or I'm not sure what's going on. The whole Niners offense definitely suffered without Brock Purdy this week, other than Kittle. Sprinkle Juwan Jennings a little bit, but it's still like George Kittle was a clear winner of week 12 for sure. Obviously, what else we saw was, again, Darnold bounced back. I think people were like kind of getting a little bit eerie on him, even though he finished QB9 the week prior. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think people were kind of like, I think the Jacksonville game, people turned off on him a little bit, but he had QB9 performance against Tennessee the week before, and then this past week QB6 against Chicago, which a lot of people shouted out their defense throughout the whole entire year so far and whatnot. In general, when it comes to that, when it comes to week 12, what I also noticed from a real life standpoint, other than fantasy, was like the Ravens came out and did Ravens things. Like, they came out and they didn't exactly dominate the Chargers, but they looked good enough to be like, all right, like, we can still take this team seriously. Like, not that the Chargers were a pushover, but it was a decent test for them. And then we'll get to like other injuries, other things that are coming up for your waiver wires and stuff. But yeah, like, in terms of what we noticed from week 12, there's still some things that are crystallizing for the NFL as a landscape. Noticing that, like, Miami's trying to find their way into the playoffs, finding ways to lose games right now. The Commanders, you know what I'm saying, losing an upset fashion to Dallas in a wacky game. 41 points in that fourth quarter for that game. That was crazy.
Yeah.
And then, the Eagles looking dominant against I would say a well-polished Rams team, because they came into the game pretty decent across the board. Eagles, like, just purely dominating the Rams in most facets of this game. This was literally like a 37-13 game until Cooper Kupp scored that late touchdown. So just kudos to this Eagles staff. Like we talked about before the game, like on Sunday, I don't understand why everybody keeps on saying that the Eagles are this, the Eagles are that, or whatever. But they're now winners of, how many games now? 8 straight games, 7 games, something like that.
I think
7 games now. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of wild when you think about it. But I think there's definitely some things from fantasy we'll talk about that we definitely notice as well. But those are just some of the things in general that you got to start thinking about when it comes to certain teams. When we think about them making the playoffs, also affects our fantasy football playoffs. So we got to think about, all right, these guys are going to get number 1 seed, like it can affect some of your players moving forward. But in terms of that, we're going to get right into the waiver wire. George, a favorite of the show, has a question. He's asking us what's going on.
Friend of the program.
He definitely. he is 9-3 first place.
Let's go. Well, listen, I'm gonna throw a quote out there. Tell your friends about us.
We could take I think we take a sprinkle of credit why he's 9-3. But kudos to George. Let's keep it moving for him for sure. I know standard leagues isn't always for these days isn't that as always, it's always touchdown potent. So but he's asking, should he trade? Wow, he still has trades going on. Hold on, let me get my notes out. Okay. First place, should I trade Bucky and JSN for Derrick Henry? The reason why he's probably doing this is because Henry's on a bye next week, and we'll get into that. But other RBs are Barkley, Gibbs, Benson, and Mason. Receivers are Moore, MHJ, D-Hop, Waddle, Mark Cooper. So Bucky and JSN for Derrick Henry. The reason why I'm a little hesitant on this is because I know you're thinking about getting Henry, Barkley, Gibbs. Like, obviously, that would enhance your roster even more. I say, again, first place, 9-3. When we're looking at the playoff schedule for the Ravens for week 15, week 16, 17. There's a couple of matchups where we could be like all about, right? With Henry's matchup proof anyway, but he gets Giants first week of the playoffs. But unless you get that bye week, that makes sense. Your Steelers week 16, and then the Texans week 17. So when it comes to that, the Bucs have an easier schedule down the stretch when it comes to these playoffs. Pretty much the matchups pretty much throughout the rest of the year for them, looking really good. So they get the Panthers this week, So sorry, starting the playoffs, week 15, the Chargers, week 16, Dallas, week 17, Carolina, and that's the championship in most leagues. Unless you play in a weird format that you play week 18 as a championship, that'd be really weird. But yeah, like I would say in terms of this trade, because it's standard and because touchdowns matter, because volume matters, like I would probably just do the trade because Derrick Henry, Barkley, Gibbs, like that's a phenomenal running back room where again touchdowns matter the most in this league. I know receivers you wouldn't be hurting too much because it's not like I feel like he has a bunch of wide receiver twos and not a wide receiver bona fide one. So the next trade I would do is getting a wide receiver one for sure. So if someone I'm thinking about that you could probably require right now was the price still might be a little. It depends on league receiver wise, but I would still check in on a Tyreek Hill owner. I would still check in on the Drake London owner because Atlanta's offense gets an easier cakewalk matchup down the stretch. We try to upgrade that wide receiver room because I would do this trade for Henry and then upgrade the receiver room. Johnny, what would you say to this?
Man, for me, no, I
See
love
that,
that right
guys?
there. Yeah, I love that. I love that right there. For me, man, like I'm trying to get Derrick Henry, like for sure, because I think everybody knows what I'm about, black and gold all day long. I'm still
Dustin
skeptical. I know I'm still skeptical about their run defense. You got to think in a revenge narrative game, right? Like for the Baltimore Ravens against the Pittsburgh Steelers, you got to think that they're going to come out hammering the run against the Steelers. And then when you look at like the Giants, I think that's what's it class act or house party? Man, that shit too easy. No, man, that shit
house
too
party.
easy. Yeah, house party.
Bro.
That shit too
house
easy.
Party. Come on,
yeah,
now.
class act. It's all running together. Class act, house party. It's all running together, man. But my point is that shit too easy. So I think there's that, and I think like obviously the Texans defense, man, they've been suspect. Suspect want to be first place division team, but they ain't really acting like it. Suspect should be a really good defensive team, but they ain't, like with D'Amico Ryan. So I just think like for me, man, those are two spaces, man, for me that I think about where those could be game changing, two games that could take you to the moon, right? In the playoffs with the Baltimore Ravens and Derrick Henry, right? Because they're still going to be playing for something because they're behind the 8 ball with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they're still going to have something to play for. So I say, man, hey, if you can make that trade, man, to go get the D train, man, go get it, man, for sure.
Definitely. And again, you're making this move because Dustin doesn't agree per se. He likes the depth, but I think in this situation, you don't necessarily have to need the depth in a standard format. Like for me, I just want the best guys possible, got the best probability to score touchdowns every week and let the matchups fall how they may. Yeah. And that's just where getting Henry like this would be too easy. So please hit that accept button and run. Like
the only hang up, like the only mild hang up, and I think we talked about this on Sunday, is just JSN is playing. He's finally getting to that space that we thought he would be at. That's which I think that's how you get to Derrick Henry is because of him. Yeah. But other than that, man, like I'm all in, bro.
Totally. I mean, I understand it, but it's like standard format. If we're talking PPR, this changes that. This question gets tighter if we're talking about like half or especially full, because we saw what Bucky Irving did, underneath as well this past week. He was absolutely destroying these guys underneath with Baker as well. So if it was PPR, it's definitely going to be a little bit more tighter, but just give me the best player in the trade, Henry, this late in the season. And I know the bye weeks come in, but it's like he got Barkley and Gibbs. He could easily surpass that. He's first place. So even if you don't have first place, like going into the playoffs, like you pretty much have a winning roster to look to get the championship, because we're not playing for last place loser. We're playing for we're playing for all the gold here.
And man, listen, I tell you right now, Jameer Gibbs is slowly starting to move into my second half fantasy MVP conversation, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's a guy like I've been,
Mm-hmm.
talked about it, man, probably for the last
Mm-hmm.
month about like,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that just puts you in a place to be a menace, George.
Starting to think like me a little bit over there, huh, John?
Oh, stop! I'm the one that said that first. Get out of here, man. Get out of here.
Come on. I said Gibbs many times.
Oh, stop! Check the film. Check the film.
We sure will.
All
We
right.
sure will. But yeah, waiver wire week 13. So we're getting right into it. A friendly reminder that speaking of bye weeks, week 14 bye weeks upcoming. So no teams on bye this week. It's another Bye-Mageddon for week 14, where we'll have certain guys on bye for week 14. That's the last week for most people's playoffs, unless you're playing in a league where you only 4 teams make it. Because I have a league where only 4 teams make it. But week 14 buys, several QB names will be here. If you've been starting Knicks, obviously Jane Daniels here, Stroud, Lamar, like highlight the quarterbacks here. So there's certain guys like running backs wise, Henry, Taylor, you know what I'm saying? Like
Mixon.
There's a ton of guys here that, will somewhat, impact some week to week lineups with 6 teams on bye. But okay, in terms of drop list, we have a few names for drop list. Sure, we could always, we're always taking questions from an individual side of things. But here's a drop list where you could pretty much feel comfortable dropping these names at the moment. Romeo Dobbs, because he has that concussion, especially if you need to put someone out on your roster now, like it makes sense. Potentially get him later. Cam Akers, like, look, it's either him. You could drop him, but it's like also if you have Aaron Jones, I probably wouldn't. Deontay Johnson, I mean, it speaks for itself, dude. We all said that this trade to freaking Baltimore for him was gonna definitely be not great at all. So it's unfortunate that's happened, but it is what it is. And Jake Ferguson, because like he also is probably not gonna play Thursday, and it's just we know Dallas's offense is like really dink and dunk at the moment, and it's not something that you probably want to think about starting at the moment. Maybe next week potentially, but you don't have to drop them. But those are just some names in general that pretty much feel safely dropping. Did you have any name that you wanted to mention?
No, man. I like this list. I think the only guy that like I think obviously I've been a fan of and I've been on record for, right?
I mean, look, that has happened before in one of my leagues. You know what I'm saying?
Listen. Listen. We had to be optimistic, but I think we're past that point now. Deontay Johnson in the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver room, like, if you're a wide receiver that used to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers and you leave, it's not going to get any better. Like, it's just not going to get any better. I mean, like, track record shows it. Antonio Brown lost his mind. Mike Wallace fell off. Deontay Johnson fell off. Like, it just is what it is, bro. It just is what it is, man. But like Romeo Dobbs, man, is the one guy that like I would probably be a little bit hesitant about dropping. And again, it just depends on the format of your league, right? Go ahead and hit them with the disclaimer. Go ahead. And like, yeah, it just depends, right? Like on your format and what your rosters look like, right? But out of the rest of these guys, like, and even with Ferguson, right? Like, I think it's hit or miss, right? Like, yeah, there we go. That's a disclaimer, right? That gets us off the hot seat. But it just depends on your format, right? Like, if you have short benches, then yeah, like you might be able to get these guys back. If not, then you just hang on to them. But Deontay Johnson is absolutely droppable at this point. So is Cam Akers, man.
Totally. And if there's other names you guys have mentions that you guys want to have that question about before waivers start, feel free to definitely drop them in the chat. Pretty much waivers there's some opportunities this week in general, depending on your league size, depending on what's going on. If you guys have a specific question about that, again, feel free to hit the chat. Top waiver QBs are below. These guys are available in 60% of leagues or more at the moment. So Russ Wilson's still out there. He has a decent streamer matchup this week, taking on Cincinnati, where we know that Cincinnati is going to play coming off their bye. This game should be more of a high octane offense where Pittsburgh's going to have to put up more points. So Russ Wilson's got to throw the football more. Drake May, he still shouldn't be on waivers. He's still available in like 70% of leagues right now, which is, and this is all predicated on sleeper. the dual threat status of Drake May, like it doesn't make any sense. Trevor Lawrence, someone that people probably left for dead. Because I'm just saying, like he's available in 70% of leagues right now in sleeper.
Yeah,
Nuts. He's still available, and he could still be someone that per se may not give you the safest of floor. It could give you some ceiling. When it comes to upcoming for them, the Jaguars, because they have nothing really to play for besides like their jobs. So, I mean, look, if Trevor Lawrence wants to show us that he can overall be a guy that can still be useful, for his younger career upcoming, he got the extension and everything, but it's more about like still like proving that you are this franchise guy still. Like you have the opportunity to do so with, the next 5 games, 4 of the last 5 matchups are playing against the bottom tier pass funnels. So he's playing Houston this week, Tennessee the next week, the Jets week 15. That'll be a first round your bye if you're in desperate need of a QB. Raiders, and then the Titans again week 17. So he could definitely a sneaky ad, especially if you were able to add him before this week ended, because he was on bye. Jameis Winston, Jameis Winston, man. He's someone that you could still like, if you're in a league where people are kind of just nabbing, QBs and stuff like that, stash season, like we keep saying. If you're constantly looking at waiver wires and noticing like your QBs are just getting nabbed week by week, I just think Jameis is a nice option to still have on your benches. He's still available in 70% of leagues right now on Sleeper. It's kind of wild if you think about it. But look, I mean, the matchups, he has a couple of bad matchups upcoming this week. So he has Denver, who's been a better pass defense overall last 4 weeks. Then he gets Pittsburgh after that. And then to start the playoffs, Kansas City, then Cincinnati, and then finishes off against Miami. So probably not Miami, but if you're looking for, again, like a QB2 that you might want to play the matchups with, Jameis Winston, we know he's going to keep on throwing the ball. Pass attempts, he's had no less than 30 pass attempts through these games he's started. So he's someone that you definitely want to prioritize if you are in a funk for QB. Bryce Young, Will Levis, these guys are still on their own as well in sleeper, and it's probably because most people are still playing shallower leagues per se. But these guys have proven to us that they can at least be a potential spot start. Mainly Will Levis, who's been a lot more better since he came back from injury. And then super flex leagues, Aiden O'Connell is pretty much the guy. DeVito was on this list last week, but again, like, I don't know. Like, I would wait to see, because again, everything spells this Giants team is not, again, someone that I would put my money on per se. So, and we'll get into that in a little while, in terms of that goes. But those are some of the QBs for waiver wire of the week. We got cuffing season once again. The running backs you guys see here should either be on their benches, like we said this last week, in terms of Gus Edwards. I hope some of you guys have Gus Edwards on the end of your benches this week. Otherwise, it's going to be expensive to get him, unless you a waiver claim situation where you don't have the highest of claim. Cam Akers still on this list for cuffing season. Like I said, if you have Aaron Jones, Gainwell is on this list. Braylon Allen still, Blake Corum, Ray Davis. Obviously, it's probably pretty much the number one option here. When it comes to cuffing season running backs. But that's what we got there. Waiver running backs. So Amir Abdullah, man. Like, what in the world? Like, did anyone see this coming? I knew he would probably have some decent role, but 90% of the snaps and 6 targets out the backfield. Like,
I'll tell you something. Real quick off subject. Like, the first ever pod I did, like with my brother, the first ever video, like Amir Abdullah was coming out of college in Nebraska, and I loved him. I don't have him on any of my rosters, but like I played him in DFS. But like I love seeing Amir Abdullah getting out there, man.
He was the RB9 this week.
Love it.
He was the RB9 this week. So it's
crazy.
You're hoping that White and Madison stay out a week. That could potentially happen. They play on Friday against the Chiefs. It's possible. It remains to be seen of how that will go. But I think Amir Abdullah should be someone that if you're in a spot where you need a running back this week, That would be somewhere I would go. Gus Edwards and Vidal, like clearly these guys are on the list because we don't know what's going on with Dobbins, honestly. But I think Edwards is a possibility to pick up, but the upside play would be Kamani Vidal because again, we talked about him before, hopefully being the catch, pass catching back. For whatever reason, I don't know what's going on with Harbaugh, but he's still using Hassan Haskins every once in a blue moon. I just don't understand it. I don't see.
Oh, I can tell you. I can tell you what the tie is. He's a Michigan guy. That's it. He's a Michigan guy.
But yeah,
like familiarity, man. Familiarity, like you know what you're getting, right?
Awful.
He's terrible. Terrible.
Though, like he's just awful. But I mean, look, Edwards has not been anything special really per se either. So I mean, I would probably just put a few dollars on Vidal or waiver claim maybe on Vidal if I have a lower claim this week, just because I think people will be rushing to get Gus Edwards, and he hasn't been as efficient, and volume is king, but it's still like he's very limited, and I could see the situation going really, really wrong. If you had to use him against Atlanta this week, because it could just be more of a split backfield. They could be all three of the guys we just mentioned could potentially be used. So this is a situation where it's kind of like, again, there's not much on a waiver wire, but let's not still get trapped on this situation. If you need a running back, just look for some of these other guys, mainly Jeremy McNichols. He's pretty much on nobody's radar right now, pretty much on no roster unless you're playing like a very deep league. But with Nichols, we have to B Rob's pretty much going to be out. I'm not sure if he's been ruled out just yet for this week. With his injury, I think he messed up his ankle, right? So with that, and obviously Austin Eckler, one of the last plays of the game, he gets banged. He gets banged hard.
It's like Austin Eckler stay in the concussion protocol, though, don't he?
It's unfortunate. I don't know why he was even on special. Why was he even on special teams? Why was he even on special teams?
Because you got a defensive coordinator as your head coach. That's why.
I don't understand why Austin Eckler was on special teams. It didn't make any sense. So unfortunately, he pretty much going to be ruled out. You know what I'm saying? We're expecting it, but in terms of that, Jeremy McNichols would have pretty much, a decent workload. There's also Chris Rodriguez makes the list here as well, which would be like definitely a guy that you could add probably after the waivers have cleared, just because you never know what they kind of liked him in the B Robinson role anyway, goal line back situation. So it remains to be seen how that would go out, but I would look into that in terms of guys that you might be able to use. Johnny, you want to add anything to these guys?
No, man. I think like you kind of nailed it, man. Like as far as like their running backs go, I think Jeremy McNichols is probably the most interesting guy for me out of this group, along with Amir Abdullah, just because of what you were able to see. And Amir Abdullah doing that against a really stout Denver defense, right? There's that. And then as far as like the quarterback situation go, like you had talked about, like just a couple call outs, man. Will Levis, you know what I mean? Like it's there for sure. And then like one thing, obviously, I got to make my plug for my Steelers, right? Like the most interesting thing, like for me, like about like those guys, like Russ playing against the Cincinnati Bengals is the last handful of matchups against him, against the Cincinnati Bengals, they've actually been able to keep them in check. But there's also been a couple of times where like the scores have went over for sure. So like I would expect more of a wide open game, right? Like, and I think that's just in Cincinnati's DNA this year. Lots of losses on defense, like we're seeing that now. Like they're typically in a lot of shootouts. So like I would definitely love Russ Wilson this week if that were a situation that you found yourself in. And then Roschon Johnson, man, he's been quietly creeping up, man, as far as snap count goes, as far as touches go, especially inside the red zone. And one of the things like we've noticed a lot is Caleb Williams has been using his legs a lot more over the last 2 weeks. So Roschon Johnson is somebody that I absolutely would not sleep on as far as like adding him to your roster.
Totally, man. That's just what, definitely couldn't have said any better. Boy, speaking of receivers, there's some options. But there's not as much, to be honest with you, this week. What I do like from this list is that Adam Thielen is someone that he should be rostered, especially if we're thinking Carolina is going to at least be somewhat competitive, like he did last. What we saw on Sunday against the Chiefs, where they only lost that game by a field goal. Where is this Carolina?
That was crazy, bro. That was crazy. That was crazy.
I don't know if that's a project. That's because the Chiefs were just not taking.
I think the Chiefs were looking forward to the Raiders, man, because the Raiders have always played them tough, and that's what they're looking forward to the Raiders. And like, I think they knew that this game could have fell in that situation, but like, yo, man, shout out to the Panthers for getting back on track, man, and at least making it a tough game, man, for sure.
No, for sure. And then our guy, well, my guy for sure, cover boy, Nick Westbrook-Ikine, yo. This guy has been flaming hot lately. Like 6 touchdowns in the last 7 games.
You know who it's reminding me of? You know who it's reminding me of?
Oh, boy. Don't say it. Don't say it.
It's reminding me of the run that Victor Cruz went on whenever he came out. It's reminding me of that. It's like every week you look up at this guy. Victor Cruz was salsaing in the end zone every week, and you're like, man, he can't keep doing that. He can't keep doing, and he just kept doing it. He just kept doing it, man. Like Westbrook-Ikine, it's the same thing, man. Like that's what it's reminding me of. It's one of those kind of runs, man.
That's fair. I thought you were gonna kind of downplay him and be calling him like a less speedier Deshaun Jackson.
Oh my God, no, dude, I love Deshaun.
He's just
Jackson.
I know.
No, don't even do that. Don't even do that. Don't even do that.
He's just a taller version of him. He's not.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that to my guy D-Jax. Don't do that, man. I want chips with D-Jax, man.
I love Deshaun Jackson. But no, Nick Westbrook-Ikine deserves all the love this week. We had said in terms of he was in the list last week, so he's been upgraded. But look, like he's been consistently scoring touchdowns. I know we're not trying to keep, it's not been a extreme efficiency per se or whatever, but it's something worth talking about because especially last week when we had 6 teams on bye, he may have a tougher time making your lineups this week, but he's someone to at least watch out for schedule purposes. Titans have the easiest schedule among receivers, second easiest in terms of receivers for the rest of the year. So that means Ridley. This means Westbrook-Ikine. So it's look, I mean, that's just where we're at with it. Give me Gabe Davis vibes. Shut up, Dustin. Don't say that. Don't say that about
Gabe Davis is a one game guy.
Don't ever say that about that.
Yeah, he's a Buffalo Bills guy, so like I can see
it.
Gabe Davis one game.
Westbrook-Ikine has had some type of talent.
Look at us. We're getting ready to break the internet over here. Yeah. We're getting ready to break the internet over here. Yeah.
You're in timeout, Dustin. All right. Quentin Johnson's on this list, but probably after a Monday night.
I was actually him and Josh Palmer. I was like, all right, like I feel okay about this, right? Like the Ravens secondary, it's been and then them guys went out there and laid an absolute dinosaur turd out there is what they did.
Christian Watson's on this list too, but probably not after this week. People are going to be definitely dropping him. I still think he might be worth one more week of at least sitting on your bench.
I'm going back to it.
I'm saying as well. And speaking in the same sentence, Tavion Wicks, because look, both of these guys should factor in a little bit more without Dobbs, because we know Dobbs was the clear, other wide receiver that would mainly be in 2 receiver sets for the Packers. So these guys are both worth either holding on to Watson at least to see what happens without Dobbs this week.
Yeah.
And then Wicks, because we all know he has that connection with Jordan Love. We go back to the preseason where he had that 60-something yard touchdown play early on in that preseason game that we saw when we're in Ohio, by the way. Mario Douglas also still makes this list because he's someone that's still not as owned, and New England's offense has just looked better in the last couple of weeks when it comes to getting other guys involved, Boutte and Douglas, stuff like that. But 5 catches, 63 yards for Douglas last week. He's just someone that's a nice floor play, potentially has a little bit of ceiling to his game if the Patriots find ways to score. But that's what we got this week for receivers, tight ends. So Taysom Hill, Like, look, if he's somehow still out there on your waiver wires, he's a
Man.
priority. You should have picked him up last week when he was on bye, because there were some people that were just scared to pick him up last week and use him as a bench spot because we had 6 teams on bye. I hope people use that to their advantage, because now Taysom Hill is locked and loaded. He could be a top 5 overall tight end play for the rest of the year. We're talking about a guy that we haven't seen someone like this in fantasy football per se doing all these things. So he probably won't do these things consistently.
Not since my guy Cordell Stewart, but that's all right. I don't even know if fantasy was around then.
Yeah, fair enough. But guys were labeling as a tight end. You know what I'm saying? Like we never listed Cordell.
No, we ain't never seen that. Bro. We ain't never seen that. Guys killing it, bro.
You got to take advantage of this opportunity, because look, it's pretty. Because the tight end is just awful. We know this. And a guy that like Taysom Hill is, I'm not saying that his consistency, like what he did before the bye week, is something that we could consistently bank on. But it's in the realm of possibilities of potentially having that. If anything, the floor, we still don't really know the floor game of his just yet. Because look, Noah Olave still on the IR. Shaheed done for the year. There's no there's not really much receiver talents outside Kamara, and we have Taysom Hill, who's also a goal line back for them too. So there's a lot to love about Taysom Hill. He is literally your utility player right now. Yeah. And now no more bye weeks, off the bye week, freshened up, ready to rock and roll. And then the rest of these guys, we talked about Jonathan Smith for the last couple of weeks, and he shouldn't be on waivers. Like, he somehow is. Definitely reach out to him. Will Dissly, same thing. Because the Chargers are going to be, since the last trends wise, the last 6 weeks, Dissly has really just not only taken over the tight end, but also been a key factor with the Chargers receiving game, because some of these receivers, as we saw on Monday night, can't catch the ball. So Dissly's someone we could just lock and load potentially. If you're hurting that tight end. Theo Johnson makes the list because Theo Johnson has been someone that we've been touting the last couple of weeks. Finally, he's starting to look like he's starting to come together. 6 targets in each of the past 3 games for him, and 5 or more fantasy points in the last 4 contests for Theo Johnson. Unfortunately, Tavon Sanders probably got to take off the list, but I didn't want to take him off because I don't want to see him go yet. And then Isaiah Likely, who didn't play as much of a role Monday night, but he's still someone that we should prioritize because we just never know. Anything else to add, Johnny?
No, man. I think the dumpster diving of tight end is pretty much what you've nailed right here, right?
Well, I take that back. I definitely take that back. There's one name that is very intriguing.
Say it.
One name that's very intriguing is Noah Gray. Right?
Oh man,
is this sustainable? No,
but I think that's more of a bye week play. I don't think that's necessarily this week. I think that's more fair. Of a bye week play. I think everybody that's been around the block knows Noah Gray, who he is, and what Noah Gray and Justin Watson were one and the same. They're one and the same. They're interchangeable pieces. If Noah Gray has a good game, Justin Watson won. If Justin Watson has a good game, Noah Gray won. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. But I think you nailed it, right? We don't know what's going on with Jatavion Sanders. Probably won't end up playing, more likely than not, right? Err on the side of caution. Isaiah Likely's been hanging out on the waivers, back and forth every week, man. As far as the tight end position goes. Theo Johnson is interesting just because the Giants are an absolute shit show of chaos. Will Dissly is actually somebody that I do like quite a bit. I used him a few weeks ago, man, as far as buys go. And then, like you said, man, those other 2 names, man, Jonnu Smith and Taysom Hill, man, if they're out there, go get them. There's nothing else to be said other than to go get them.
All your money, all your fab.
Go get them. Both guys, they both make their own case as to why they are, in the tight end 1 conversation, meaning one of the top 12 tight ends. Go get them, man. If they're still available, there's nothing more to say other than go get them.
Literally. And the streaming defenses we have, a couple I have here are especially, I want to prioritize the Dallas Cowboys. And we'll talk about this game between them and the Giants. But turnover city for DeVito. Last week he took 4 sacks. Sorry, the Cowboys had 4 sacks and 3 turnovers on Daniels. And then DeVito took 4 sacks as well in his loss. The Giants rank 8th in sacks allowed this season. So look, like it should be a feast day for these Cowboys defenses. Definitely prioritize them because people have been, Dallas defense, has been pretty awful throughout the whole year. But I feel like the matchup and what they've been doing the last couple of games has been turning things around. Buffalo Bills a little bit harder, especially if Brock Purdy's playing. But the Buffalo defense probably shouldn't be on waivers. Even with the matchup against San Fran, we gotta check the news. If Trent Williams is definitely not playing, this is definitely the team that would be highly someone I want to acquire for that Sunday Night Football game with the Buffalo defense. But we're switching gears now. We have a special Thanksgiving NFL slate.
Love it, bro.
Adding on to this, so we're gonna be talking about a few games that are on Thanksgiving that you guys will be watching turkey and watching turkeys. You guys are gonna be eating turkeys and hams and fried chickens and stuff like that, man. So the mac and cheese is gonna be out, stuffing's gonna be out.
Sweet. Yeah, man.
I'm sorry. All right, I gotta stop before I get myself.
Right. Talk your shit.
Oh no, man. I can't. No, I don't want to just yet. But if you don't mind, I also take the time to say I whooped Johnny's ass this past week. And,
man, I gave you your love already, man. I already did, man. I tipped my cap to you already at the beginning of the show, man. Because Saquon Barkley, man, you already eating off my plate, man. Stay away from me, man. Don't worry. Derrick Henry coming back to see y'all, man. Don't worry. It's
definitely possible. So, see you in the championship, buddy.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, man, like I'll start off first, man, with this Bears and Lions game, for sure. And one of the things, man, just to call out, man, is just the Bears have been playing better offensively. I think like you're seeing Caleb Williams, which use his legs a little bit more, which we kind of talked about in a few of these segments here. And like this is one of the things, man, like I had mentioned. Again, my digital receipts, man, just talking about Caleb Williams and his legs. I think it's an underrated aspect of his game. He's been on a roller coaster all year long. There have been pockets of time where he has looked really good. There's been pockets of time where he's looked really bad. They have fired their offensive coordinator, and now I think you're starting to see them look a little bit better offensively. And the Detroit Lions, man, I'm just gonna start calling them homecoming, man, because they just beating up on everybody like it is homecoming. But like one of the areas, man, that the Chicago Bears have been a little bit vulnerable over the last 3 weeks has been in the passing game. They have been a little bit vulnerable in that area. When you talk about like adjusted completion percentage, they're in the top 5 in that area, right? So that means realistically, when you take away like kneel downs and swats and uncatchable balls and things like that, like they're one of the worst in the NFL when it comes to that. And now all of a sudden you have this offense, the Detroit Lions is showing up. They can run it, they can pass it, right? They can do whatever they want to do, however they want to do it. So I think this is going to be one of those games where I think you're going to see Jared Goff get busy. I don't know who we're looking at from the pass catchers. You got to think about Jameson Williams in this aspect, right? I know Amon-Ra's a little bit banged up, but he's probably going to play. Same thing, right? Like you think about Jahmyr Gibbs in the passing game. So for me, I'm looking at this game from a DFS perspective, and I'm thinking, all right, like give me Jared Goff, like for sure. And then I'm also thinking about some of the other players, right? Like when you look on DraftKings, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be one of the, at this point, he's projected to be the 3rd highest owned player. Amon-Ra is projected to be the 2nd highest owned player, both over 40%, right? And when you play these slates, especially if you're looking at a GPP, you got to find ways to get different. So this is not the way to get different is with these guys, right? Because they're going to be 2 out of the top 3 projected highest owned players on the slate. But when you switch it over and you look at the quarterback position, Jared Goff is the 3rd highest owned, projected to be the 3rd highest owned quarterback, right? So maybe you can get a little bit different there, like in that space with Jared Goff. But like I've said it, been saying it, Jahmyr Gibbs. I feel like the second half of the year, defenses are starting to slow down. He's starting to speed up because the way that they use him. I think you see it every game, right? Montgomery kind of starts out, kind of bangs it around in the first quarter, and then in the second quarter, all of a sudden, now you got to go out here and, man, you got to try to catch this guy, right? So for me, I think 10 is a very big number for the Bears for sure. I'm not quite comfortable taking the Lions in that space because I do think the Bears could keep it a little bit closer than that, than the 10 for sure. But I do think this could be a game where there could be some points scored here at a premium for both sides, right? Because you've seen the Bears last week and Keenan Allen start to come to life. You've seen DJ Moore start to show up against a quality team, man, in the Minnesota Vikings. So I think this might actually be the best game we might get on Turkey Day, might be this game right here. So for me, I'm taking the Lions straight up. If I had to pick right now on Tuesday night at 8:58 p.m. Eastern here on the East Coast, I'm going to say give me the Bears in the 10 points and give me the I'd say give me the under on this game. I don't think it quite hits the 49 that it's at right now. But again, from the DFS side of things, like I like Jared Goff a lot at the quarterback position. He's somebody that like is probably going to be my primary play. And then obviously, like I said, I'm going to keep riding with Jahmyr Gibbs until the wheels fall off.
Yeah, it makes sense. For this game in general, we gotta still wait. Yeah, hopefully David Montgomery is playing this game. I guess I would say the 10 is interesting. I guess the 10 is interesting in terms of we just seen, Detroit. They're just really looking really good.
They are.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem is it's like, yeah, like for as well they are looking, we're trying to find out like if we should take this line. It's 10.5 on FanDuel now. So
it's climbing.
So it's climbing already. We're not even in Wednesday yet. So so I don't know what to think about the line per se because it is at home. It is Turkey Day. Lions have been playing. Now they're finally playing more meaningful Thanksgiving game because they're always on Thanksgiving too. And they usually are playing these games that we're like, they should they be here? But not this year. Shoot. They not only belong, but they're also leading for the most part. So yeah, I guess if I was touching this game, it would make sense for me to probably just take the Lions here and tease this down to like a 3. And that's a little bit like 3, possibly a 6, like a 7, because I do think Chicago's offense has looked a lot better in terms of just like how they've been looking to score with the football, like 27 points against the Minnesota defense that, so-called are schematically, like, in terms of not only just schematics, but also just how they've been playing defensively, like amoeba defense, where it's like they're changing coverages to where, all right, we're thinking you're gonna go here, but we're gonna go here, type of thing. And I just think the Bears getting 10.5 would make some sense, but it's more of a stay away. I just think the Lions are just gonna steamroll these guys, really. I just think Chicago. This is like Chicago's like this is the season where we're just kind of mailing this in. I think, in my opinion.
I feel you, man. I would challenge you on a couple things, man. Like I would challenge you just in terms of like how the Bears have been playing everybody else inside of the division over the last couple of weeks, right? Like, and I think like you look at like the Vikings, and I think like they're not the Lions. Like, don't get it twisted, right? But that's still a good playoff
Packers
football
couple weeks ago.
Right, like so, like for me, I'm just getting PTSD and like, man, like I am not gonna get burnt. My Thanksgiving is not gonna get ruined because I feel like the Lions probably are more equipped to do that. But like, I'm just saying, man, like see the forest for the trees out here, man. You know what I mean?
And the reason, I just think the reason why they might get steamrolled is just because Detroit Lions' offensive line is just that good.
Yeah, they are. That's like, a good group.
It's just that good. I know Jared Goff hasn't looked. Jared Goff hasn't looked like his best, but he's usually done well in Thanksgiving games as well. I just think Detroit wanted to really come out here and make a statement, and I think they'll do so Thursday.
Last year, didn't they lose last year? Didn't they lose last year on Thanksgiving?
Detroit did?
Yeah, I feel like they did.
I really don't remember, honestly.
Go ahead, keep doing your thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check them out.
Yeah. Again, I just think Detroit's gonna do their thing. Am I taking the 10? Probably not. It's just more like a stay away. I'll just look at some props probably later on. And if you guys got questions for those, let me know. But I think in
Yeah,
terms
they
of
did. Yeah, they got an L
who they
hung on
lose
them
to.
last year. The Packers. Yeah, they've
Yeah.
actually, dude, the Lions actually have lost the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The last
Damn, really?
7 Thanksgiving Day games they've
Hmm.
lost, bro.
Oh, so you're taking Chicago's points. Gotcha. All right. Makes sense. Um, but yeah, I mean, look,
And the points
I,
are there as a buffer.
I get it. I'm going against the grain, like in terms of that
That's
goes,
fair.
and
That's
just
fair. Talk your
I
shit. Talk your
it is what it
shit.
is. So we'll see what happens. But
Yeah,
it's not a game I'm prioritizing per se.
fair enough.
But I would take Detroit. I would take potentially the T's down to 7. Um,
That's fair.
and probably the under here because we know Detroit likes to run the football.
Yeah.
I just think Detroit. It's all in Detroit here. They control the narrative here. So,
Yeah.
but if they get beat by Chicago, it is what it is. They get your ass whooped. They get their asses whooped. They get their ass whooped. Probably the crap game of the slate here. Boom, boom, boom. Giants getting 3.5 on the road to Jerry World. Giants are an abysmal 2-9. The Dallas are holding on to some hope. The Cowgirls are hoping on some hope there. 4-7 on the year. Over under here right now is 37.5. This is the middle Thanksgiving game, 4:30 game. So yeah, I mean, look, from a DFS standpoint, like pretty much gonna be like because in order to win a DFS tournament in these type of formats where it's like 3 games, stuff like that, you got to have at least 1 or 2 pieces of each game, or you're just gonna stack one game in hopes that it is the top scoring of the format. So when I'm looking at things in terms of like where I might want to go, I may not per se want to stack the game, but I think an obvious play is Tyrone Tracy, like 5,800, like makes a ton of sense to at least, from a volume perspective, like he should still get a ton of usage. He's better than what he did last week. 9 carries, 42 yards, the 4 catches, 28 yards. I would say that'd be a floor game for Tracy. I think a ceiling game outcome is definitely more in the works here when it comes to this offense because you're hoping that DeVito is this better, is a better version of himself this upcoming week, especially if he wants to keep the job. Because he may or might not play. He's still questionable at the moment. So if it is Drew Lock, that would be interesting as well. But I think for this slate of games, like when it comes to the running backs on this slate, like you're clearly going, you got your Achans, your Gibbs, your Jacobs. I'd be interested to see what Tyrone Tracy's ownership is closer to Lock. But there's one. The same thing goes for Rico Dowell because both of these guys have, from an ownership perspective, will definitely be lower than the top 3 options. But I would say seeing if you could flex one of these guys in as like a little bit of a lesser play, maybe you even go Rashad. In the previous game, Roshan Johnson 4,500. This is all DraftKings prices. But these are some things that you want to get outside the box with a little bit in terms of like how you see things. Another way you could look at this from a tournament perspective is just like taking a low end receiver for the same concept and then fitting in a good amount of ownership plays as well. But Johnny, take the floor on this. What are your thoughts on this?
So Tyrone Tracy, I'm gonna go the other direction on him. Just because, man, like I think, just because, dude, like I think the Dallas Cowboys defensively, like I think they understand as a team that that's the only way that they stand a chance, man. And like I said it on Sunday, that's the only way they stand a chance. And I think obviously Micah Parsons and some of the rebuild pieces that like they have on this defensive unit, that is their home base, right? And then you're playing against the Giants, and like let's just keep it $150. Let's keep it crazy here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense ain't exactly been one to write home about all year long. Like that's one of the only reasons why like we thought maybe we could go to Malik Neighbors, like as far as like DFS. Obviously in season long you got to plan. Same thing with Tyrone Tracy. So I would say with Tyrone Tracy, if you take out that Pittsburgh Steelers game, where are we at? Where are we at?
You got the Pittsburgh game.
Hey man, hey, I have to be non-biased in the situation where I have to be non-biased. But if we take out that Pittsburgh Steelers game, where are we at? And I think that's what's going on right now. Is I think some people are still kind of hanging on to that game and like that 2-week window where he definitely had two really good games against the Steelers. And I can't remember the other team, but there was a 2-week span. Who was it?
Carolina.
Oh, say less. All right. So I think like we have to take that into consideration. But like if you look at what Dallas just did against, as we would say in the wrestling world, the baby face, the Washington Commanders, right? Like if you look at what they were able to do, man, I'm kind of steering clear of Tyrone Tracy. However, my favorite uncle that comes to the party, Uncle Rico, I'm in on him, man. And ownership says the same thing, man. He's coming in about 50% on DraftKings right now. And I'm cool with that, man.
Wow, yeah. That's chalk.
No, man, it's not, bro. It's chalk, but I'm willing to eat that chalk though, because I really think the Giants are that bad. And Brian Daboll has lost the locker room, bro. He has lost the locker room. I feel like at this point, because when you have, let's take this into consideration.
Sure.
If any other time a rookie player is coming out in the public talking the shit that Malik Neighbors is talking,
that's true.
There would be another grown-ass man that would put him in his place, and that has not happened, and I think that's just another signal that, like, they've lost the locker room. And then you go out and you see Saquon Barkley absolutely tilt the slate. Bro, like, I just think that, like, the Giants, I think at this point, like, I keep saying it, man. I've had a couple of quotes, and I'll keep saying it. Like, tank it for Shador. Is it prime time in New York? Like, what do we got, man? Because I just don't think – that there's a lot left for the Giants to play for. We talk about Tommy DeVito. Like I said, that might have been the best matchup he would have had. And I'll say this right here with my hands. I'll say it with my hands. That might have been the best matchup that he had was last week against the Bucs, and he did not deliver. And I think the Dallas Cowboys are like, hey, if we win this game, we're one step closer to potentially getting into the playoffs, which I don't think. But I just, like I said, give me Rico. And then CeeDee Lamb quietly, man, over the last couple of weeks as well with Cooper Rush, he's still been a respectable fantasy option. He hasn't been the number one wide receiver, and I think we all knew that. But he's been a respectable fantasy option. And I think that streak kind of continues, on Thanksgiving Day when you talk about players that you want to get to or build around that you don't really feel comfortable. I think this is a prime spot for CeeDee Lamb that you don't feel comfortable to because there's so many other players on the slate that you can get to. I think CeeDee Lamb is going to become a forgotten guy, and that's a place that like I'm actually kind of comfortable getting to as we talk about it out loud.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think CeeDee Lamb's a more than fine play, 7,300 in a slate of games where we're like. At the top, we're like, all right, like, come on, raw. You know what I'm saying? And it's Lamb, and then it's like Tyreek Hill at 6,900, Neighbor 7,100, Jameson Williams 6,100. That's interesting.
I like it. I love it. I like me some JMO. I love me some JMO.
I do too. But man,
I like me some JMO, baby, especially in this setting too. Especially in this setting,
most likely. But yeah, I mean, look. Are you stacking this game? Is this a game that you would stack the most?
No,
like,
no. It's not a game that I'm stacking. It's just a game to me that I think, like I said, like there's still some pieces that we don't know about, right? Like we don't know what's going to go on at the tight end position, right? But I do like Rico. I do like CeeDee Lamb. I do like this Dallas defense. I'm probably going to play some GPP on FanDuel more likely than not. And I'm probably just going to play I might do like a 20 max and a single on DraftKings. But I will be getting some kind of exposure to this game, though, for sure.
I think you have to. When it comes to just like ownership projections and stuff, I'm looking forward to how it crystallizes a little bit more. I just think if people are definitely sleeping on Tyrone Tracy, though, like I think it's still an option where I think it's possible you can still use him at basically a fraction of the cost from Rico Dowdle only going down a few $100. So maybe see how it will go. In terms of the game,
Cowboys.
Yeah, because
Cowboys.
the
Cowboys.
Giants,
I even
the
feel
Giants can't be
comfortable picking the
trusted.
Cowboys in the points, man. I even feel comfortable with that.
The Giants can't be trusted.
No.
The matchup I'm looking forward to most, because it's the most one with a lot of implications. The Dolphins on a 2-game winning streak going into Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. Over under is 46.5. The Dolphins are getting 3.5 on the road. This is the NBC Sunday Night Football game ish, because it's Thursday night, turkey game type of thing. Yeah, what I'd say about this game in particular, Devon H. Let's go.
I ride with you. I ride with you.
Took a little while, but
man, get off the boo boo. Get off the boo boo. Get off the boo boo.
It took a little while. It took a little grooming.
Get off the boo boo. Week 4, week 5. Get off the boo boo. All right. It's America, Jack. I can change my mind.
Took a little grooming. I get it.
Oh, took a little grooming, man. You still ain't even came around to George Pickens. What are you talking about, man?
Nope, still haven't.
That says something about one of your co-hosts that you're listening to out there. One of us is able to adapt.
No, I can adapt, but we'll just see. It remains to be seen with Pickens still.
Remains to be seen as we go into week 13, and he's in the top 5 in receiving yards in the NFL, and we talking about remains to be seen. Man, get off of it, bro.
Pause. George Pickens is definitely not that. Also, hold on. His attitude is crazy, yo.
Man, listen, we ain't out here drafting fantasy football players based on attitude, man. Because if that's the case, then Tyreek Hill wouldn't be on nobody's roster.
What was that?
I'm just saying.
Your boy Pickens, though. I like a little whiny little kid.
Listen, man, you don't get extra points. You don't get points taken away from conduct, man. That don't happen. So go ahead, carry on. Go ahead, man. You got it. Go ahead, do your thing. Cool.
Oh boy. I love it. Dolphins coming into this game, like I said, winning the 2 straight, and Tua looking like the quarterback that we all thought he was going to look like, right? He's just out here just taking apart teams that he should be beating, honestly. So this is a matchup where I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to play out for Tua, because back-to-back weeks of at least 36 attempts or more, 288, 317 in back-to-back performances, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns in respective games. Like, we talk about Tua, and he's just a quarterback that what remains to be seen, like how consistent he can be. He gets a Green Bay matchup, who Green Bay has been middle of the pack when it comes to passing yards allowed. So I know Miami has the weapons. They're going on the road, and they're going into a somewhat coldish weather climate.
Yeah.
So to me, it's Green Bay, and I'm taking the points. And I like the over, though, too. Because I think in this game, both these offenses are going to look to score, and Miami's going to have to prove that they could actually play in good weather. I mean, it's not good weather.
I was about to say,
good weather for football, cold weather. You know what I'm saying? Not that either. No, I didn't try to go to a dang game like that.
Oh, I'd love to, man. Johnny Camp in the building, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, let's go.
But I'll have some more props in terms of like how these games go later on if people want those. But I would say the reason why I'm going with Green Bay is because Green Bay not only has to keep up with the division lead Detroit Lions, but also right now, if we were looking at things, 3 teams at the NFC North will make the playoffs. That's crazy to think about. So I would say Green Bay, like, I'm just taking Green Bay in the points just because I think Josh Jacobs has really been playing well for this Green Bay team. Outside of the, Dobbs not going to be playing, so this opens up more opportunities. Miami Dolphins defense has been better as of late. But again, I think Miami's got to prove that they could play in cold weather before I'm really feeling confident about these guys. But from a DFS standpoint, Jayden Reed, man, like
Ooh,
I know he's not like he hasn't been the last couple of weeks. He hasn't been like the target hog that he once was earlier on in the year. I think in this game he has to be though. Back-to-back weeks of only 2 catches or 2 and 3 catches though. This is like the cheapest you'll get Jayden Reed, especially on a slate like this. He becomes a must-own in my opinion. The Jalen Waddle, like, will we see that type of performance again? The Green Bay secondary has been playing better as of late, but man, Waddle came out of the shell. It feels like, like 8 catches, 144, like best game of the season thus far. So I mean, it remains to be seen like what Miami is going to do though in general. But I'm looking at some of these guys clearly to stack up in this game, the last game of the night. Like it's one of those situations where it's like you take a couple of pieces from the other games, and then you stack like 4 or 5 of these guys in your lineup late and watch the sweat happen.
Yeah.
But Johnny, what do you say to this overall?
I feel like I'm just here to create controversy tonight. I think this game
right here, Miami. Oh, perfect.
No. I still think the Packers win this game for sure. I just don't think it's going to end up being the shootout that people think that they're going to see. One, you mentioned the weather, right? Which I think that plays a factor into it. But 2, like low key, like both of these defensive secondaries have been playing really good over the last handful of weeks, right? Like when you think about the Dolphins, this is the caveat with them. Is it the fact that that defense is playing good, or is it the fact that they've played the Raiders and the Patriots 2 out of the last 3 weeks? Because I think that might have something to do with it, and that might be clouding our judgment in terms of what it is that the Dolphins have been doing over the last 3 weeks. Obviously, they had a really good win against the Rams on Monday Night Football. We can't take that away from them for sure. But then 2, I think it's you mentioned Josh Jacobs. It's kind of hard to get excited about the run game. The Pats never had a chance last week. Their game just got out of hand quickly, so they couldn't get Ramondre established. The Raiders, they didn't have anything going at that point in time. Kyron Williams, man, I mean, he was 4 yards a carry, 62 yards on 15 carries in that game against the Rams. So I think I'm going to be leaning a little bit more towards the Packers run game. And I think it's been documented how much of a Jordan Love fanboy I can be at times. But I will say this as well. The Packers have allowed 111 yards over the last 3 games. They've had the Lions, the Bears, and the 49ers. And Christian McCaffrey didn't do a lot on Sunday. But the Bears had Swift and Caleb Williams and Roschon running crazy, and obviously we know what the Lions do. So you got Devon Achane coming to town against this run defense of the Packers. So I think while we're all thinking more fireworks in the air, I think we need to be looking at more fireworks on the ground for both sides. So instead of going towards the wide receivers in both of these games, I'm looking more towards the running backs in both of these games for me right here. And the Packers are one of the top 10 teams in explosive runs given up over the last 3 weeks. And all of a sudden, here comes Devon Achane and the Miami Dolphins. So to your point, Nick, I feel like if the Dolphins are able to maintain, I think this could get very interesting on their side of things. So I'm going to take the under in this game. I still believe in the Packers overall, but I'm going to take the under. I just think that it's going to be interesting because it's very easy to sit here and say Jordan Love, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jayden Reed, right? Tucker Kraft, Jonnu Smith. It's very easy for that, right?
Who's gonna break the slate, right?
Right. But for me, I look at it and I say, okay, give me the running backs. I'll take the running backs in this situation. So that's where I'm leaning toward, and that's what I'm looking at.
Lock of the slate for it. Lock it.
Oh. Okay. Man, lock of the slate for me. Lock of the slate. Give me Jared Goff, man. Give me Jared Goff. I just think that, again, man, what the Bears have been giving up over the last handful of weeks in the passing game, I think Jared Goff has been more accurate, and he's been efficient. So give me Jared Goff. I don't know what Lions pass catcher is going to be. Maybe it finally ends up being Sam Laporta. But Jared Goff is the guy that, like, he's going to be – him and Devon Achane are going to be the centerpieces of my lineup on Thanksgiving Day.
I think my lock of the slate here is the opposite. I like Caleb Williams. Only reason why is because we're getting a QB that's 5,300 who's been pretty much close to 6K pretty much all year long. So we're getting a nice discount bump. Like he's been 6,100, 5,400 a week prior before that. So with price difference, it's like the market doesn't exactly know how to really gauge it. So I think from a value perspective, I definitely like Caleb Williams. Like he's not only been able to throw the football the last couple of weeks, but also he's been still being able to run a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's where on this slate, like I think especially if Chicago's playing from behind, all of that's working into it. I like stacking him up with Keelan Allen because as much as I've been like really like annoyed with Keelan Allen all year long, he had a breakout year. He had a breakout performance this past week where this offense still wants to give him the ball.
Yeah.
So
you
it's
can
like
see that.
this offense still wants to give him the ball. Like 9 catches last week.
Yeah.
Like it
looks like Keenan Allen last year, baby.
So well, I'm like, he's starting to look like that. So what I need from him is 18 points. Like that's from a 3.x like GPP play. Like it makes a ton of sense for me. And then obviously we're prioritizing the Achans and the Gibbs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The Gibbs would be the bring back.
Got to.
Especially if we hear no David Montgomery, but even if we do hear David Montgomery,
it's still a play, baby. Still a play.
7,500 for Gibbs is most likely still to play. For the ceiling, obviously. And then so that would probably be my like where I would start with as far as locks for the slate. Like I think Caleb Williams and Allen make a ton of sense. The only way I would probably go somewhere different is if I was trying to get a little different. Like Cole Kmet would obviously probably fit into that as well, 3,600. But that would be like that's the GP play for tight ends this week. Because he might get some ownership, but you may not get enough ownership because again, Chicago's gonna be behind. So it's like you don't have to play Allen, you can play more for 500 more on DraftKings. Like so there's a lot of ways we can get a little bit different on this, even on these 3-game slate. So if you're like Johnny, you don't want to stack up the late game, then stack up the first couple games and have a piece or two in the late game. Like I like stacking up a few of the early games, like the early game, maybe take a piece from the Cowboy Giants game, and then like the last game, I kind of like stacking up because it'll be interesting to see where things go, and I kind of like that. But it's also like again the last game of the slate, so it's like you definitely want a few players there who can make a difference for you. So, and plus Tyreek Hill right now, a bit too cheap right now.
Yeah, he was somebody, man. Yeah, but like you know what though, man, we talk about it all the time, man. We're going into week 13, and he ain't gave it to us yet.
We do.
Man. He hadn't given it to us yet. But like he's actually the only player on the Dolphins team that actually is familiar with playing in conditions like that.
Hasn't had it yet.
Yeah, he hasn't. So he's due.
He's
due. You're right. That's a good call.
He might be due. Like Waddle.
I can't even argue with you on that one, man. He might be. And I'm a Tyreek guy, man. But maybe you might have me thinking about some stuff, man. I might have to sleep on it tonight.
You're gonna have to. And hopefully, I need him for the cookout league this week. So.
Oh shit. Okay, keep on going.
Guess who's playing each other again this week?
Keep on going, hell. Keep on going.
Dude, I have no idea how my team has the record that it has, bro. I know. I think that's the biggest enigma.
It is because you were like, I literally like have all the receipts. You're like, I hate my team.
Yep.
5,000 tight ends. What am I doing? I hate my team. And I'm like, I don't know, bro. I actually like my team. Yeah.
Yeah, you like your
but
team.
I'm not dead yet, man. I'm not dead yet. I'm hanging on. I'm hanging on for dear life. We talked all that shit about Tyrone Tracy. Watch Devin Singletary come back from the grave.
Yikes.
I know, right?
No.
Hey, man, listen.
Crazy things have happened.
To quote the great Warren Sapp, if he keeps putting the church's money on the ground, he ain't going to be in the game.
I got to catch one of these dudes at the top, so I got to keep winning, man. Like. I don't know. I got 4 tight ends though. Super flex league, baby.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ! I don't know. Fucking, if I would have went 4 tight ends, they all would have died. So literally. That's my like yeah. I'm not even
Luckily, I got 2 decent ones.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna do it tonight. I don't have the bandwidth.
Including the last one, Taysom Hill.
No. Listen, give me the strength. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Give me the strength.
Oh boy, well we've had a fun ass show tonight with y'all. Again, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Definitely we are here. But the next time you will be seeing us is of course Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, where we got the week 13, the rest of week 13, the picks, the bets, the prop show. If you guys have any information, I know the Friday game, we didn't cover that. But if you guys really need stuff about that, let us know. But it's something that we're not exactly prioritizing. It's the Chiefs and Raiders. Like you're hoping Hermit the Frog, Patrick Mahomes, goes out there and tortures them. But Sunday,
closer than yeah.
Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We out here for the rest of week 13 and all the questions you guys have. If you guys are doing so, feel free to follow us on X. These are the taglines below. We will see you guys Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. We out.